What if I told you that the life you're living right now might not even be your real life? That the thoughts you think, the roles you play, the way you present yourself to the world might be nothing more than a carefully crafted mask. Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century, believed that true life only begins when you take off the mask and begin the terrifying, beautiful journey of discovering who you really are. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But let's be honest, that privilege often feels like a burden, because finding yourself isn't always exciting. It's not always empowering. Most of the time it's confusing, it's painful, it's lonely, and that's exactly why so many people never do it. Let's go deeper. Jung believed that every person has two lives, the life we live outwardly and the unlived life within us. The first one is easy to recognize: the job title, the social media profile, the habits, routines, opinions, and stories we tell. But the second one, the unlived life, is hidden. It's the voice that whispers when you're alone, the dreams you once had but buried, the parts of you were told to silence, the pain you never healed, the person you were meant to be before the world told you who to become. And here's the truth: until you look inward and explore that hidden self, you are only existing, you are not living. So how do we get so far from ourselves? From the moment we're born, we begin learning what it takes to survive, to be loved, to belong, to be accepted. We're taught what's right to feel, what's appropriate to express, what parts of us are too much, too loud, too sensitive, too weird. And little by little, we start to build a mask, what Jung called the persona. It's not fake, it's functional. It helps us navigate society. But when we identify too deeply with the mask, we forget the face underneath. We lose contact with the self, the totality of who we are. Jung didn't just want us to be normal, he wanted us to be whole. Wholeness, he said, is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. In other words, stop trying to be perfect, be complete. Let's talk about the journey of individuation, the core of Jung's work. Individuation is not a destination. It's not a place you arrive. It's a lifelong process of becoming more and more yourself. And here's the catch: you don't find yourself by adding more. You find yourself by letting go of the expectations that were never yours, letting go of the shame that doesn't belong to you, letting go of the fear that's been inherited, not earned. The process requires honesty, brutal, uncomfortable honesty. It requires you to sit with your pain, to explore your fears, to meet your shadow, the darker, unconscious parts of your psyche. Now, the shadow is not evil. It's not something to destroy. It's something to understand. The shadow holds the parts of ourselves that we've repressed or denied: our anger, our jealousy, our ambition, even our creativity and power. If they were seen as threats, Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That's what true self-discovery looks like. Not building a perfect identity, but integrating all of you, including the parts you wish weren't there. Because the shadow you're afraid to face might hold the key to your freedom. So how do we begin? How do we walk this inward path? Not with some grand gesture, but with quiet observation. Start with your triggers. What annoys you about others often reflects something unresolved within yourself. Start with your dreams. What images, people, or emotions keep reappearing? Start with your conflicts. What situations make you feel like you're torn between two versions of yourself? These are not just psychological curiosities. They are invitations to come home to yourself. Let me ask you this: when was the last time you sat in silence and truly listened to your inner voice? Not the voice of self-doubt, not the critic, but the whisper beneath it, the one that knows what you need, not what others expect. Jung believed that this voice, the voice of the self, is always there, but we must become quiet enough to hear it. And in a world full of noise, that's revolutionary. Here's where it gets real. Many of us think we're free, but we're trapped, not by governments, not by systems, by the need to please, by fear of rejection, by attachment to safety over truth. Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So if you keep finding yourself in the same painful patterns, the same toxic relationships, the same emotional loops, it's not fate, it's not bad luck. It's an invitation to wake up, because here's the gift. When you begin to find yourself, not the Instagram self, not the career self, but the soul self, everything begins to shift. You speak more truth. You attract better relationships. You feel more grounded, even in chaos. And perhaps for the first time, you stop performing your life and actually start living it. Carl Jung didn't just teach psychology. He taught liberation. He taught us that the point of life is not to conform, not to impress, not to succeed, but to become so deeply yourself that the world cannot help but shift around you. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Yes, it's terrifying, but it's also the beginning of real life. So if you've been lost, if you've felt like a stranger in your own body, if you've been chasing meaning in all the wrong places, stop, close your eyes, and listen to the quiet truth inside you. That's where your real life begins. That's where you begin.